The Italian Wine Podcast is the community-driven platform for Italian wine geeks around the world. Support the show by donating at italianwinepodcast.com. Donate €5 or more and we'll send you a copy of our latest book, My Italian Grape Geek Journal, absolutely free. To get your free copy of My Italian Grape Geek Journal, click support us at italianwinepodcast.com or wherever you get your pods. Grazie mille. Official media partner, the Italian Wine Podcast, is delighted to present a series of interviews and highlights from the 2023 Wine2Wine Business Forum, featuring Italian wine producers and bringing together some of the most influential voices in the sector to discuss the hottest topics facing the industry today. Don't forget to tune in every Thursday at 3 p.m. or visit theitalianwinepodcast.com for more information.
So first of all, this is very experimental. This is our second tasting of the day. The whole concept behind this is to understand the rationale behind how the wines are scored. In this case, of course, we have two masters of wine. First of all, let's give it a round of applause to the two master of wines, but one is still missing. I haven't a clue where he is, but I'm going to just leave it to Robert now so you guys can start so that people can just, this is yours.
Thank you very much. Well, we're going to let Andrea, Lonardi, start talking. Andrea, what did you think? No, seriously, I'm not going to say very much on this. I'm not a master of wine. They are. But I have done quite a lot of work with masters of wine over the years. And what this is about is actually not exactly scoring wine. This is about analyzing wine in the way that you need to do to get your Master of Wine qualification. And that is not about saying, this is a 92. Oh, you're here. Thank you very much. By the way, we've already finished. We finished, right? No, thank you. So this is about, as I said, it's not about whether a wine is worth 92 points or 98 or 87. It's about analyzing the wine using the kind of logic, part of the logic that you've done through the academy here, but at a different level and a different way for the MW qualification. And I'm going to hand the microphone now across to my friend, Mr. Gorelli, who's going to give you a little bit more information. I'm going to hand it back to there.
So here we are. We have no time, but we will be able to craft the tasting in a way that we will not need much more time than the allowed. So what I was supposed to say here, it's a bit of an introduction, because you need to know that the very first day I got in touch with the Institute of Masters of Wine, it was the actual day that I met Andrea Lonardi here sitting, or I should say Andrea Lonardi MW. Not sitting anymore, but anyway. It was at that point that we have been told that the MW is an individual study program. So you do not expect to have some lessons covering the full syllabus, not lessons giving you the full array of information that you've been asked for in the exam, but you should study all in your, I'd say, group or individual space. But what I realized is that it is an individual study program, yes, but you cannot expect to do it alone. And that was the reason why we found, me, Andrea, and Pietro, which is the forthcoming NW due in next year, February, I would say, we found ourselves together to develop a way to tackle the NW course, which used to be a way that was already sort of a trail that we could go through. We needed to be trailblazers. We needed to become the ones that develop a new kind of structure, new kind of way to tackle it. And that's what this session is all about. Thanks, Robert, for having the opportunity to moderate us, especially me, because I'm going to talk too long many times.
So what are the challenges, Andrea? So we've got people taking the MW exam all over the world. And originally, they were all in Britain, and they were all in the London wine trade at a time where they weren't tasting wines from many countries. today, what are the challenges for doing the Master of Wine qualification when you are in Italy or in another country? Andrea?
For Italian student, the most difficult things is what we discovered with Gabriele and Pietro, and it is actually the fact that it's really difficult to find the wines. So it's not easy. It's better right now. 10 years ago, 8 years ago when we started, it was very different than right now. And that was an incredible opportunity for me, for Gabriele, for all the group that we were. I want to tell you what I really learned in the Master of Wine is that an issue can be an opportunity. A challenge can be transferred in something completely different. It's a way of changing your system. Your operating system is something that can change, and you can work hard in order to really change. And actually, the times that you take to do the Master of Wine is exactly the time that you need to change your operating system inside yourself. So what we are doing today is not tasting wines. Is using a technique, a methodology that you can actually use every day in your career, your journey. When you decide in which market you want to go, why you want to go in that market, which reason push you in order to think in that way, why I try to be agnostic when I need to judge something, in which way I try to push away bad energies or bad things that can get inside my mind in order to make wrong decision. So today we have just 3 glasses, and we use three glasses just like a tool in order to learn a methodology of thinking. It's not the only one methodology. There are other methodology, but it is one that actually can work quite well in the wine business.
Italian Wine Podcast, brought to you by Mama Jumbo Shrimp.
So in the Master of Wine exam, there are all sorts of different questions that you're asked. One of the questions, for example, might be, here are 3 or 5 glasses, they have one thing in common, and you have to find that one thing. And that can be pretty tough. Today is relatively easier. So, Gabriele, what is the question that everybody is being asked?
So, imagine you are sitting in the exam room. We are pretty much 160. So you imagine us sitting the exam at the Royal National Hotel in London, which looks like East Berlin when it was a bit of a... No, it's very bad, I tell you. Yes,
and you're not sitting as close to each other as you are here.
No. You are like 2.5 meters apart. But you are 100 people all together. You're being served the same wine all together, 12 wines in front of you. And the first question reads, wine 1, 2, 3 are made from the same single grape variety, but come from different countries. So you already, before tasting the wines, you already have in mind what can it be. I mean, it's the same single grape variety, so no blend. And it's same for all the 3, but 3 countries. So you already start thinking about what can it be. It can be many things at this point. But then you need to sort of cross evidences in a very, I would say, linear way. So 2 observations equals 1 conclusion. No? So if these are single grape variety, and I have 2 that are very, I would say, ruby, tending to garnet, a very dilute color, very light color, and one that is much more colored. I should think about different approaches, different climates, styles, and also quality. And then I should go and dig inside the glasses to understand better. And as was Andrea talking about, the way we developed our sort of system, you need to imagine a huge amount of data that comes out from every tasting that you do, provided you have the availability to the wines, which we didn't have back in the time, so that we had to be very disciplined in getting the most from any tasting that we were able to do around the world, saying around Europe or in the seminars that we attended, and grab the markers out of each wines and organize these markets. So the initial idea was to be very holistic, so start making a pile of sheets, A4 sheets, and like Andrea used to be doing like 2 months ago, he was still working with a pile of sheets. Now it switched to digital, and we are now phygital, and we developed mind maps.
Right, stop.
I stopped.
So
I need
before
to be
we go
moderate.
any further, there's something crucial that we might overlook. What are you looking at here? You're looking at, you've been told briefly by Gabriele, and then he repeated more than once. You've got 1 grape, 3 places. As Andrea said, the number of people in that room of 100 in London or wherever who actually didn't focus on the question and then came up with answers that could not possibly be right when you are asked about 1 grape from 3 places. So that's a very, very valuable. They've given you information in the question that you need to take on board. So I think that's a crucial thing to say. And now, Andrea...
The answer is always on the question.
Yeah. So, Andrea, now talk a little bit about the whole mind map. Who knows about mind maps? Who uses mind maps? Not very many. So I think, Andrea, would you like to explain a little?
It's what Gabriele says. So when you have an incredible numbers of data, you need to put things in boxes. And in each boxes, after that, there will be other information that will be organized. So it is actually a way of organize information. I was painting walls and paper everywhere, and Gabri was...
No, you need to explain what a mind map is.
Well, a wine map is
That's the genesis, no?
But in simple terms, what does it look like for somebody to look at?
They look like a
Tube map.
For me, wine map is an Excel file where I can organize things.
Oh, but visibly, it looks like a tube map, a New York or a
London map. Yeah.
So you have colored lines that link you between different things.
It's absolutely exactly like that. This is your way of looking at wine maps. I have my own way that was transferred in, and that way it was an Excel file. An Excel file where I couldn't put in each page, so in each column, what is Pinot Noir, how it looks Pinot Noir, how it tastes Pinot Noir, where probably Pinot Noir come from, how many styles of Pinot Noir you can get, how many quality levels you can get inside Pinot Noir, which is a commercial positioning in Pinot Noir, who is drinking Pinot Noir, why they are drinking Pinot Noir, and which occasion probably you must drink Pinot Noir. So if
You have to do that for every single grape variety.
and you have to do that, you think that you have to do that for every single grape variety. It is exactly like that, but you don't have to do that for every single wine around the world. You adapt a wine that you can find around the world, and you say, okay, this wine is fitting with this category of wines. Maybe it's not Pinot Noir, maybe it's not Chardonnay, maybe it's not Syrah, but it looks like this wine. So let's investigate a little bit more. So it's a way of sorting, and it is the first very important things that Joseph say. First, read the question. Second, start to understand what you need and what you don't need in your journey.
And so that's also, just quickly, there is what I was saying earlier, there is the Sherlock Holmes line that I've always found useful in blind tasting, which is eliminate the impossible. What is left, however improbable, is going to be the answer. So if you actually go down the road and you're writing down something impossible, you will not get to the right answer. The only last thing I'm going to say, and maybe you may want to say something before we start, the last thing I want to say is that when we start this exercise, I would recommend that before you really think really hard about it, just write down your first impression on the paper in front of you, because that may be a valuable thing to come back to. It will be a valuable thing to come back to, because my worst results in blind tasting have been when I've argued myself out of a position. My first thought is, it's X. And then I start to taste, and I do this, and oh no, it may be this, it may be that, maybe that. And I find myself 100 kilometers away from X. And when I come back to the end, yeah, it was X. Your first reaction is very I don't know if you both agree, but it's very often the one that you have to give a lot of value to. It could be wrong, but even when it's wrong, you need to think about why you had it, because the reason that you had it, even when it was wrong, may be relevant to getting to the right answer.
Yeah, and what is important about today is that you are not here to understand, to guess what is on the glass. No, Gabriele, we need just to build the flow how to get there. We might probably get wrong in the hand, but we can be very close to the final destination, and that is...
Yeah, about that, sorry. And I will be more positive in saying eliminate. No, to me it's not about eliminating. It's about the first impression. And our first mentor says, if it walks like a duck, it walks like a duck, it looks like a duck, it is probably a duck. And therefore, it is what you should be able to distill as an information from here, and then not to be second-guessing yourself or arguing with yourself whatsoever. Having said that, there are many ways to tackle a blind tasting, especially if, like in the MW, you can go wrong, and I repeat, you can go wrong for the right reasons. I mean that considering how you write, and you should write like a lawyer, no? We know, taste like a detective, you quoted Sherlock Holmes, and write like a lawyer. Since you write like a lawyer, even if you're not right in your final sort of funneling, in your final answer, you might be finding yourself in a place where you are wrong, but you did the correct way to get into that wrong answer, which could be easily interchangeable with a correct one.
But effectively what you have is the examiner who is saying, yeah, I could have gone wrong like that. Looking at the color, smelling it, analyzing it, I could have gone there. And then last thing I'm going to say, but it's maybe an obvious thing, but as we're tasting these wines, the sort of things that to me come back as always important. The aromatics, color. Is it a deep color? Is it not a deep color? What's the level of color? Some grapes are not going to give you particular colors that other grapes will. Secondly, the sort of acidity. You have different acidities, I think, in different wines. Thirdly, the sort of tannins. And to me, in red wines, white wines, it's the sort of acidity. In red wines, to me, tannins are different. And you would say, okay, these tannins send me in the direction of, for example, Cabernet Sauvignon more than Grenache, because even a deep-colored Grenache might look the same color as a Cabernet Sauvignon, but once you get it in your mouth, those tannins are going to be different. And the acidity and tannins will both be relevant to the finish in a way that hopefully will helpful. Lastly, oak. What is the role of oak if there is any? If there isn't any oak in the wine or new oak evident in the wine, that may be telling you something. If there is some, it may be telling you something. And of course, the quality of the oak may tell you something. If it tastes like oak chips or whatever, that's going to tell you something in itself. So those are all elements that I would be advising you to have in your head when we're looking at these wines. Anything I've missed?
I believe we should allow 3 minutes of total and absolute silence and focus to taste this wine, to go through this wine, and to build a first impression and a set of information that you can extract from this glass, and you can then cross with your knowledge to build an argument. So 3 minutes starting now.
Andrea, would you like to start the questioning? And we're going to look first at, we've been told it's one grape variety. Anybody like to raise their hand and shout? Yep. Sorry? Pinot Noir. Anybody else? Any other? I'm not saying it's right or wrong. You said it's right. Okay. No suspense. Who did not think it was Pinot Noir? Anyone? Be honest. What did you think? Syrah, any other thoughts? Any other suggestions?
No Grenache around? You think about Grenache? Yeah.
Yeah, Grenache, somebody?
Grenache.
What was the other? Any other grapes? So let's have before we talk about Pinot Noir for a second, let's just say, why is it not Syrah?
Well, Andre, you want to go? Or
Yeah, I would start by saying that if it is a single grape variety, it can be Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Syrah, Pinot Noir, Merlot, and Grenache. So we have six. And after that, we can start to sort something by the color. Probably cannot be Cabernet Franc.
you didn't say
this
that
color.
because it's 3 countries.
Yeah.
Because we won't say it's a Sangiovese, 3 countries. Difficult.
Tempranillo is possible, but Tempranillo is not widely planted these days everywhere. For example, color Tempranillo might have worked, but not as across all the countries.
So this is how the way you start to sort things. Could be also Nebbiolo, Sangiovese, but can you have a Nebbiolo, Sangiovese from 3 countries? No. Corvina? No. So let's go with the normal thing. So we sort Cabernet Sauvignon because normally it has a very dark color. And I think also we can sort something else. Grenache, since we have two very pale colors, we start to figure out, you can start to think clearly with Pinot Noir, Merlot, and Grenache. So I will find out.
So Syrah, what we're saying is, Syrah, this would be pale for Syrah. No, this is pale. Yes, for Syrah. So Syrah, I would expect more color.
And Syrah is violet. It's
And violet is also the...
Yeah.
And we haven't yet talked about the nose. We're just
We
looking at
didn't
the color.
talk about the nose. So just by the color, we sorted and we finally end up with 3 wines, with 3 grape varieties. That is very, very good. And we didn't taste the wine. We didn't smell the wine. So
why, now let's say in this group we have Grenache, Merlot, Pinot Noir. Smelling the wines, why is it Pinot Noir, not Grenache or Merlot? Gabriele.
Yeah, so when you have a variety like Grenache or Pinot Noir, you should expect different styles as you're displayed by the color, but also you go inside and you check nose by nose, and you have very different profiles, but at the same time you have some commonalities. No, you always have that crunchy and crunchier small forest fruit around all these wines, and you have this ability to exude spices from oak or the lack of oak whatsoever. Plus, there is a fragrant character of the wines. All of them have this fragrant character. The first one might be a bit more austere and younger because you have that touch of VA, volatile acidity. You can feel that, boom, it comes, it hits on your nose. The second one is the one that is more overt. You have that tomato leaf, a bit of a cola bean. It has some plumper fruit. You should expect a sort of a plusher tannins to it when you taste. And the third one is the most extracted of them all. You have this ability, and I will call it as not just complexity, it's a confluence of the floral character, the floral aromatics, plus a lot of extraction. You see that is much more violent in the extraction. And you have darker fruit, red berries. Also, you have that underlying truffle-y touch already, plus very slaty, flinty touch, almost salty already on the nose. So that tells you a lot.
I also expect pepper is one of the things I do get on Grenache. I'm not getting here. And the sort of plummy character of Pinot, I'm not really... of Merlot, is not what I'm getting here. So we know it's Pinot Noir. We've decided that. And the next question is, can we work out which countries, 3 countries, they come from? Now, number 1, any thoughts on number 1? And if so, why?
I will tackle it the other way. Because, I mean, we all have an idea of Pinot Noir. We all have a archetype of what Pinot Noir means in our head. And of course, we always learned to compare this idea to the real thing, Burgundian, Côte d'Or Pinot Noir. So is there any of this wine that tells you that, so I would say, slamming in your face that this is a Burgundian Pinot Noir?
So which is the duck?
So did anyone have, as Andrea just said,
What is the duck?
which is the duck? Does anyone think there is, we're not saying whether there is or isn't, does anyone think there is a Pinot Noir on the table? Yes, I've got one hand there, yes, maybe. Which one do you think it is? Number one? Okay. Anybody, any other guesses about a Pinot Noir on the table? Oh, sorry, a Burgundy on the table? Sorry, a Burgundy on the table.
Yeah.
Is there
Burgundian one.
Anybody
Burgundian.
name a Burgundy? Number two there? I get number two, actually, as a thought. Now we're going to tell you one of these is a Burgundy. So, who hands up for number one? Quite a few. Hands up for number two? More hands. And hands up for number three? The least hands.
You see that?
Very interesting. We'll find this as we go
see
through. What we'll tell you is number one is not from Burgundy.
No.
Right. Now you know it's not from Burgundy. Let's think about where it might be from and why it might be from. So what do we know about number one in style? Does number one have oak? Okay?
No.
No oak. That's
Good.
a fact.
Or at least not a perceivable
How
amount.
big, rich is it? How light is it? Is it a cool place, a warm place? Any thoughts? Cooler climate. So it's cooler climate, no oak.
Exactly.
Absolutely. You nailed it precisely
Exactly.
because exactly what you said. Cool, fresh, not necessarily... So, okay, quality level.
Unambitious.
I was about to say, it's not the most complex or rich or deep of wines, but it's a really nice, easy drinking Pinot Noir.
How can the rest of the room can get to Alto Adige? So let's start by the style. This is a fresh, easy drinking, beautiful, unoaked,
Bone dry.
bone dry type of Pinot Noir. So where we can find in the wine world this style of wines? For sure, first, in Italy. Second, could be a regional level Burgundy. Third, could be Chile. Very difficult because Chile there
very
will
low
be
end stuff.
South Africa,
around
maybe.
South Africa maybe, but I won't consider. Could be California. New Zealand, not really.
New Zealand would be,
Tasmania,
could
don't
be
think so.
could be Marlborough, yes, could be Marlborough, but it would
Yeah.
be much more overt. You need to take into consideration the tannins. Here, the tannins are present. The wine has that touch of bitter.
So he did
Appealing.
quickly exactly what we are doing now. He did because he's an incredible taster, so he's able to go through the system and really realize where this wine comes from. But if we go around, we will find that actually a style of wine like this one we can find in north part of Italy, maybe in Austria, cannot be German.
I mean, Baden, you can get some examples in the Rheinhessen in Germany and so
But
They
possible,
will be
but not quite.
much more impacted by oak. Most
Not
of the
necessarily.
And maybe you can find something like that in Australia.
Time. Yeah, but still, tannins are not there.
But probably from Australia they will be richer and powerful on the nose with much more fruity expression. This is actually for the restraint and the complexity nose that he has. It's probably more from the old world. So if it is from the old world, we will finally sort and we will arrive that actually can be an Italian Pinot Noir. So this is exactly the flow to take and start to sort what isn't and what probably could not be.
But because I make wine in Languedoc, if you ended up in Languedoc, for example, you would not necessarily be wrong.
No.
You'd be, the logic would take you there.
Especially if you tackle that to the right quality level. No? So
Second, I'm aware of time. So the second wine.
We should to go to the third one.
No.
No,
Let's
do them in order, the order of the table.
But, think about how they answer it.
No, we haven't given away any answers.
No, say that
So
loud.
number
This is
two, we
important.
know that at least one person in the room thinks that number two is Burgundy. One person in the room. So why might it be Burgundy and why might it be something not Burgundy? So, any thoughts? Is there any oak? Yes, we've got some oak. Yep. What else do we know about it?
So there is oak, spices, ripeness is there, the color is there. Is the
Yep.
color right for Burgundy? Or what we have in our head when you think about a Côte d'Or wine? Is it there? Maybe.
There's some richness of texture there, which says warmth to me.
You have minerality in the palate.
Yeah. There's a touch of Brett to me that's confusing, that's actually slightly confusing my taste, but
That's the reason why it might be Burgundy.
but I'm putting that, yeah, exactly, but I'm putting that slightly to one side because actually it's not spoiling it enough to be a big problem, but it's slightly drying the palate, which would otherwise be, I think, quite rich and smooth.
There are two key elements that tell you where this wine comes from. There is one element that is related to the nose. This wine has a very distinctive character on the nose that tell you exactly where maybe this wine can come from. There are three regions around the world that has this nose, this typical cola character that you can find. And this cola you can find for sure in California. You can find for sure in some Italian parts. But since the first one is Italy, maybe this is not Italy. And the second part is for sure Australia, Yarra, Mornington Peninsula. So you just sorted that there are just a few parts. And the second element that is very important about this wine is on the palate. Did you get any mineral character? Don't confuse with the citric acid that maybe you feel in the upfront side of the palate.
Also, are you familiar with Campari? I believe. Can you find Campari number 2? A bit?
The other thing is it's sort of the Australian
Early
thing.
harvest.
The Australian thing in Yarra, I still always do get a touch of eucalypt sometimes. That sort of element of character there, which I'm not necessarily getting here. So, cola,
Plush tannins.
yep,
That is key.
plush, rich, bit of oak. The oak is quite prominent for the weight of wine.
Right.
The oak is quite prominent.
Some leafy character also from
Yeah.
warm, high UV. So it looks that it comes from an area where you have high insulation. You can feel on the nose.
So it comes from. Do we know? We've told you more or less. California, right? Who in this room is surprised this is from California? Anybody who thinks that all Californian wines are rich and dark, don't. So that's an important thing. And this wine actually comes from part of California, which is actually, or there are parts of California which do tend to make 14.5%.
Yeah.
Very dark wines that are almost like Zinfandel.
This is more than 14.
And this wine doesn't have that sort of character.
No.
It's not from as warm a place as some of those wines.
Sonoma, but not by the coast. I mean,
This is Petaluma Gap, which is a cooler part of. It's a recent AVA. So last wine. You will know where this comes from now, right?
You see, that's the reason why in this industry you need to keep yourself updated. Now Burgundy, it's been since 2015, from the real beginning of very hot weather, very hot vintages over there. You see the color, and I can tell you that this is the more mature wine that you have in your flight. So it is the one that should have less color, but in fact it has the opposite. So it's a very hot vintage. That's the reason why probably, I'm for sure, this has a lot of color. But it's Côte d'Or. It's, of course, it's at the edge of the Côte de Beaune, because it's a Savigny Le Bon. How do we get to Savigny Le Bon? By looking at this wine from, of course, I know it's difficult, it can be paradoxical, but we have been trained also to say something like that the wine might be coming from a cooler area of the New World or a hotter vintage in the Old World, so that you counterbalance your errors. No? Then you go down, you find yourself a way to discriminate and to follow a path or another. But you should keep working with like 3 ideal answers, which you balance from one evidence and conclusion to another, coming to the very last sentence where you confirm why you decided one of the three options that you had initially.
Could I just also say, in terms of complexity, looking at 1, 2, 3, so setting aside the intensity, the ripeness, and so on, where are we finding more complexity? I'm finding it here rather than in the two wines before. Secondly, however dark and rich and so on it is, think of those tannins. Those are, to me, they're Pinot tannins. They're lovely, soft, rich tannins. And the structure, to me, is more of a Pinot structure. So we're kind of out of time, but I think the crucial other point is what you'd be doing, and you would have longer as doing your... We'd be looking at how the wine was made, which will include the reference to oak, the reference to any other things we might have thought were involved. Yep. Secondly, we would be looking at the quality level of this wine, which would also involve elements such as complexity. And lastly, I think we'd be looking at how long these wines are going to last. Yep. How long would we keep wine 1 versus wine 2 versus wine 3? And of course, implicit in that is the age that we think the wine is. Gabriele, have you told people the vintage of this wine yet?
Yeah, we have 3 vintages here. So wine number 1 is 2022. So the Alto Adige is 2022. The second wine, the Petaluma Gap, which we shouldn't say actually. Anyway, I mean, the site we can say. Sonoma is 21, sorry, and 2020 for the Savigny Le Bon Oclos Premier Cru.
Behind the tasting, I would like to tell you something that is probably more emotional, but is very, very important about the journey of Master of Wine. There is a very important message behind that say never lose your control. So try really to stay focused. And actually, if you stay focused, you will get the number 3 is Burgundy, because you are able to put next to qualitative values, you're able to put the quantity of these values. And as Robert says, there is a structure, there is a complexity, there is a mineral touch, there is a lot of things, but maybe just for the flavor compounds, just for the aromatic compounds and for the color, you might be wrong and say, no, this is not Burgundy because it's too rich, it's too dark, it's too colored. But these are second elements that maybe are related to vintage, as Gabriele is talking about. So in many work situations, life situations where we can be, we need really to put the right value in the different aspects that we are judged. And if we have the good balance, we will find out the good question. And this is a matter of concentration, of really dive inside the wine, dive inside the task that you have in front of you, and you will get the final answer.
And just because we are out of time, but the point that Andrea was saying when we sat down here, and I'd like you all to take away, and if you look at his notebook here, which I can see, use this kind of methodology, and indeed the mind maps and everything else, to actually think about all sorts of other aspects of your working life. I won't talk about your other life, but your working life. Exactly. And analyze why am I going to take this decision? What are the rights, the wrongs, the logic? And then you work stage by stage by stage. And your point earlier was that doing the Master of Wine study, forgetting taking the exam, but doing the study changed your way of working as a business person. Yes?
And Gabriele always says something very nice that I really like. There is not just one Master of Wine. There are different Master of Wine. And everybody, it is shaped as was your journey, as was his background. So we are different. We are totally different because a lot of things are in common, the methodology, the way how we work, the way how we think. But in the end of the day, the background that we have is strongly influencing our journey. And I think that the 3 Italian guys, they were very lucky because they find out the group of friends where the other people, they were very different than actually I was and I am. So Gabriele is very different than me. Pietro is absolutely another type of person. The real beautiful thing is just to put differences together in order to make something special.
The Three Musketeers.
That is the best finish I could have imagined. I'm fine with that.
Can I say thank you both, and thank you as an audience.
Listen to the Italian Wine Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We're on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Himalaya FM, and more. Don't forget to subscribe and rate the show. If you enjoy listening, please consider donating through ItalianWinePodcast.com. Any amount helps cover equipment, production, and publication costs. Until next time, cin cin.